Hi, Prem. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah,
Having a good week so far?
I've had a brilliant week. I've had a brilliant week, and that's thanks to you as well.
Oh,
Yeah, so yeah, great. I mean, just with the energy that you're bringing in and bringing higher value clients and whatnot. So I gave myself a raise. Thought I deserve it.
nice.
So that's made life a lot easier. Yeah, with the second business, the family
Yeah.
business. And when I was talking about I was actually actively looking for network groups,
Yeah.
events where there are higher value clients.
Mhm.
And I was doing a search for property developers, etc., or
Yeah.
whatever else. And then by pure chance, a property network orientated group approached me for their website designer developer.
Small angle.
How crazy
That's
is that?
so cool. That is crazy.
So,
Stop.
yeah, chuffed.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll accept me. Because apparently a couple of other people have already gone for it, but she seemed to like me, and that will be the first meeting next week. So I'll grab it with both hands if I can.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going in the right direction, isn't it? And that's just, but yeah, the blue sea, as he said, blue sea,
That's
red sea thing.
blue sea, red sea, blue ocean, red ocean. Yeah. Flipping love that. Amazing stuff. Do you guys know each other? I don't think Joe and Scott, you know each other, I think,
I don't
from
think so.
no,
Yeah.
okay.
Mm.
Scott is a private client, and we met over the summer, June time, July time, I think. Yeah. So through another networking, and Joe, we met on another network, wasn't it? Was it? Remind me which one. I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Either.
I do a lot of networking, so
Yeah, somewhere we crossed
somewhere.
paths. Hi, Pete. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing fine, thank you. How about
Good,
yourself?
good. Yeah, all good. Thanks. Oh, good. We've got all the fellas here today. Don't know where the ladies are at. Come on, ladies.
Mhm.
Ladies are taking their time. So let's get started. So this is what worked well last time, is actually just like a little bit of an intro, a bit of a hey, if you don't know each other. And I have a couple of topics that I want to cover today. And then just give me a shout, let me know what's happening, let me know if you want coaching, bring a problem, and then we can just have an open coaching spot. I would say for the last 40 minutes. First 20, let's do some teaching, let's do some stuff, and then you can just post questions or just put your hand up, physical or virtual, if you have a question, or you can pop it in the chat. Does that sound okay? Okay. Prem, do you want to kick it off? Because I think Scott doesn't know you. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a web designer developing agency, so social media, SEO, um, web design, graphic design, and based in London. And I think that's my because we're notorious for getting phone calls from India and what have you, I mean, all of us. So what I like to do is be as approachable as possible. As soon as someone emails me or calls me, I try and meet people in person. So I want to give that accountability, and that seems to be doing me well. And good old fashioned shaking a hand seems to really get the chemistry kicking off, which is this Zoom culture is beautiful and great because here we are, but shaking the hand is becoming a niche thing and it's an easy win. And also, there is a cultural difference in graphic design. English and European design does have its own language. So I like to keep British designers, European designers, even American design is different. I can't use American designers. I can't use Asian graphic designers. So that kind of puts my work at a certain quality, at a certain bar. And why I'm speaking to Meg is because she's like, we should value ourselves. Let's filter. Let's filter. Because I was about to become a busy fool. I'm kind of like a new startup. I've been taking my time and having fun. I was getting traction this year. I was getting traction this year for the first time was great, but I'm doing all-nighters for pounds and pence, and I thought, let's stop this now, and let's make some intelligent money and start enjoying it. So that's me. Thank you.
Awesome. Scott, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone? Because that would be fun.
Well, good morning here from the States in the American South, Atlanta, Georgia. And good to meet you all. My name is Scott. I am happily living the life down here in the South, complete with the photobombing sun. Say hello. Exactly. He and I are a little bit tired because we got off the baseball field very late last night. So apologies for the coffee, but I have recently launched my professional coaching practice, the Raven Group, designed to help people become the CEO of their lives, aligning what they do professionally with their personal purpose and their need for wealth and well-being. It's actually a concept that has been in development for over a year now, based off of the history that I have gone through since about 2017. And I've gotten to the point where most of the foundation is set and is good, but I needed help in terms of how to monetize it properly. Enter Meg. So that is what she and I are working on. But in the meantime, love you guys to, I'm going to pop some links in the chat in terms of how you find me on LI, where my company page is, and love to have some one-on-ones with you guys as well. So please use those, because this community that Meg's got together is great. I'm going to love being with you all for those sessions, but the true power is in the one-on-ones that we develop.
Awesome. Let me just admit, thank you, Scott. Thanks for the intro. Joe, do you want to briefly introduce yourself to Scott?
Sure. So, and I'm really good at brief. Because I'm kind of short to the point, always seems like. But yeah, I'm Joe Miner from Joe Miner Coaching, and I help small businesses. I specialize in profit acceleration, so focus on revenue and on cutting cost, and that way they get some quick wins.
Love it. Okay, cool. And Pete and Natasha, do you want to briefly intro to Scott? Because I know you guys haven't come across each other before.
Hi Scott, hi everyone. Well, I'm Pete Hogg from Red Kite SEO, but basically I'm a SEO consultant, so I just help with improving websites and getting them kind of found on Google. I do that just across the entire, your business visibility online. So then you become that option for attracting people coming into your business, and all about generating leads. But with me, I started out with web design, then kept getting asked about SEO, and I fell down the rabbit hole for SEO. So I really kind of specialize in just dealing with that side of things. I would rather really not get involved in web design or even branding, because I think branding is such a strong signal, full stop, and that escalates into the SEO side of things as well as the visual aspect. So yeah, my kind of started out really wanting to help kind of small businesses, and really liking the trades with business, small businesses offering services, whether it's plumbing, roofing, etc. But obviously came up against us companies such as Rated People or Checkatrade and things like that kind of consume that market just by offering pay-per-click and getting them leads and then selling them leads to 5 different people to all compete with each other. I kind of step back away from that and opened it opened out to like working with all different types of businesses, not just in like the construction industry. So I'm kind of here really because one, like, you know, the value of what you can do and help a business and everything like that is not reflected sometimes in when I give like quotes to people or a proposal. It's just sometimes I don't portray the value of what is on offer. People just see, oh yeah, SEO, it's £400 a month, and they just see it as a cost rather than you know, that £400, let's say, as an example, is probably going to generate them like £1,800 to £2,500 in revenue each month. So that's why I'm kind of here, just to kind of help push my value and bounce ideas around.
Love it. Thank you, Pete. And Natasha, our nominary lady today with all the fellas. You're lucky. Are we lucky? Tell them what you do.
Morning, guys. I'm actually based out in Colombia, so it's 6 o'clock in the morning here. So sorry if I'm a little bit slow. I'm an artist.
Oh, I think. Did everyone lose her, or is it just me?
I have can you?
Oh, you're back.
Can you hear me? My connection's really bad this morning. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. So I provide mindful art photography across the world to hotels, offices, and homes. I am here because I would like to learn how to sell commissions. So I'm not a famous artist as yet. But I'm not particularly kind of well known. I haven't got a name for myself yet. So kind of the battle I'm coming up against is obviously, why should people buy my art over another artist's work who may be a little bit more reputable, a little bit more well known. And so, yeah, I really like to learn how to sell commissions kind of you know, £800 to £1,000 or more for each.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to mute you, Natasha. Sorry, because the connection. So let's
more information. You want more?
Let's hope her connection improves a little bit. But let's kick off, because I want to keep this tight to time today and be respectful of everyone's hour. Thank you, Natasha. Sorry, I just muted you because your connection was a bit crackly, but we can feel free to drop in the chat. So yeah, today I did have a couple of things that I wanted to share and kind of start with teaching that may be helpful for this week, the next couple of weeks, as you think about value and putting it out in front of people. Describing the value so that people start paying you money. And I was just having a session with one of my other clients who might be joining us a bit later about how we create money. How do we create money? And it's so interesting because it's not what we think. It's not, it doesn't come from other people. And I know that sounds really weird. We're like, oh, it has to come from my client. I'm waiting for an invoice to be paid. The money's coming from the person, which seems reasonable in the world, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, that's the way it flows. It comes from that person. But I want you to almost flip it around in your head. You're the value creator. You're like in the middle. It's coming out of your brain. You're creating the value in your brain and then telling people about it. And they're seeing it and going, oh, I'd like some of that. Yes, please. And then the value exchange continues. It's just a big circle. It's just a circle. Value out, value in, value out, value in, all the time. But it doesn't start with them. It's not held by anybody. It's just a cycle. And the sooner we get on board with this different way of looking at money and looking at value and looking at business, the easier it is, the more fun it is, because you're never waiting on other people. You're like, oh no, it's just the cycle. Have I made enough invitations and enough offers and made enough openings in my business for the money to come in? because that's all that's happening. So whenever we are stuck or thinking like logically, I'm stuck, because that's what happens, isn't it? We're like, I don't have any money. I look in my bank account, it's minus 100,000. Oh, excuse my French. So of course, that's our human reaction to it. Something's gone terribly, terribly wrong. And yes, something has gone wrong, but not in the way that you think. It's just that you forgot how it works. You forgot what the cycle looks like, and you forgot to put yourself in the middle of it and be like, oh, this is how it works. I create the value first. I'm the one that creates, then I put it out, and then it comes back in. It comes from my brain, it comes from me as a human being. As a business owner, that's what you're doing. Your business is literally an extension of that. It's the machinery of it. So sometimes we just need to fix the machine because there's something missing. We're like, oh, there's a bit broken. Something's not working. The pipes have gone a bit clogged. There's a screw missing. Let's put that bit back in. We're leaking somewhere. Something's gone wrong. Let's get a technician. Or sometimes it's us as the value creator, because our minds just got in the way. We're like, oh, I just forgot that I create value. And that's just what I do all the time. I'm a creator of value. Making sense? So when you're like taking charge of it, not in a kind of heavy or responsible or dutiful way of like, oh my God, this is terrible, what a nightmare. It's like, oh no, this is actually really fun. I just get to do the thing that I'm really good at. And then I get paid for it. But I have to do the thing first, whatever the thing is. So if your thing is helping with SEO or branding, or if your thing is creating beautiful pieces of art or being of value in the world to other people in some way, you have to do that bit first. And so often we just get it twisted. We just start talking about it first and hoping other people see it, and then getting ourselves tied up into knots about, but they don't see it. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. It's just you didn't start with you seeing it. So on that note, let's bring it down from like up there into actions, into like, what does that even mean? What does it look like? How do I make more openings for the money to come in? It's very simple things. Are you telling people about what you do? And are you asking them if they want it? Simplest base level. Sorrel's just joining us and we've just had this conversation. Hi, Sorrel. So she'll know all about this. And are you doing that on a daily basis? Hi, Sorrel. Nice to see you. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly to everyone and say hi? Let me unmute you.
It does help to unmute myself, doesn't it? Hi everybody, it's great to be here for the first time. And yeah, I'm Sorrel Pinder and I'm a relationship coach. I work one-to-one at the moment, but I'm starting training to work with couples. And mostly it's about healing relationships, so they create a sort of safe container in which we can heal our own individual trauma. Rather than trying to do it separately from each other, which I found with my ex-husband did not work very well, hence he's my ex-husband. Is that enough?
That's enough. Thank you.
I'm just even eat my lunch, so I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear me talking.
Perfect. So yes, so yeah, from that kind of that viewpoint of openings, invitations, making sales smooth. I like this idea of sales smoothness. Just removing the friction points. It's all part of the journey. Remember, we talked about in the training about making it like a slippy slide. It should be fun. It should be fun. If it's hard and annoying and frustrating for you, just think what your clients are going through. It's already pressured enough, right? Isn't it? When you know you want something and you're like, oh, I guess I better speak to that person, but I kind of don't want to because I can't really be asked to have a whole thing. That's kind of what's going on in my head sometimes when I want to I know I'm going to buy something. I want it to be as friction-free and painless as possible. And if they can make it fun and enjoyable, amazing, I'm in. I've already pretty much decided if I'm going to buy it, let's be honest. Depending on your clients, depending on you and how you buy and how you sell, that's going to be different. You may be an analyzer, a researcher. You may want to go and get all the details. You may be a very fast decision maker, but your clients are not you. This is what I really want to hammer home. So you may make decisions like that. They may want to take a week. That's totally fine. We don't all have to be the same. So if you're thinking about it from the client's perspective, how do you make that really smooth? What's the easiest thing for them? Not the easiest thing for you. It may be a massive pain in the bum for you, unfortunately. Even if it's a massive pain for you, doesn't matter. If it's boring and annoying for you, try and make it fun. That's not on them. They don't have to make it fun for you. You're selling to them, so it's on you to be like, cool, let's make this as enjoyable and pain-free as possible, if we possibly can. Why wouldn't we? So it's just that, I think, is an element of sales smoothness that we can start to incorporate. So any questions on this so far? Any kind of thoughts, anything that's like clicking into place on like recent interactions that you've had, or conversations that did not go well, or conversations that did go well and you're like, I wonder why that went well? I'd be interested to hear if there's anything that's come up. All good? Okay, fine. Yeah.
I had a recent conversation with a potential client, and in the middle of the meeting, he just turned around to me, and this really threw my confidence a lot. He just said, Natasha, I'm not going to buy anything off you. I'm not going to buy anything from you. And this was halfway through my presentation. So like it was, I don't mind the fact that he said that. I just don't know why he called me in for the meeting. I don't know why we had the whole meeting if he was going to say that. And if you put your artwork in my hotel, it's absolutely fine, and I'm happy to sell it for you. But I'm not going to invest anything in bringing the artwork here. You do it all. So, I mean, that's like a way of doing things. But the impression I had was that he wanted to invest in the art before we had the meeting. And so it kind of just really threw my confidence in the middle of the meeting, that he just looked at me and he just said, Natasha, I'm not going to buy anything from you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to react. I was kind of stunned. So he was a really good potential client. I thought he was possibly my ideal client. So how would you deal with a situation like that when you're kind of in the middle of something and someone kind of really takes you? I found it was, and I don't know if it was an aggressive move or what. I don't know where it came from. It was just, I was very surprised, and it just really caught me unawares, and it just completely knocked all of my presentation, my confidence, my vibe, everything just went bleh. So I'd love to know your insight.
Yeah. So my first question is like, why is that a problem? What did you make it mean in your head? What was the problem? It was a surprise. And I think that's the thing. You weren't expecting it. Yeah.
No, I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. So because I assumed that he was going to invest.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always like, what are we assuming, and what are we making stuff mean? Would you be happy to do it that way that he wants? That's just a question.
Yeah, I probably would be, because I think I'm a photographer, so some of the time I haven't produced my work. It's actually because I, do it digitally. Yeah. But if I were a painter, for example, I would have already painted my canvas. So yeah. I would be taking my canvases there. So I don't think he was completely out of I was just very surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fine. Like, allow yourself to be surprised and be like, oh shit, what's happened? It's fine. He's got you in there for a reason. He's interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's
so-
such a good question.
Because he yeah.
So I think the question, so that's really like, what happens, what do I do when someone
Meg, you froze.
have I frozen? Second. Oh, have I frozen? What's going on?
Yeah, you froze for a second.
We
You're
can
back
hear you now.
Is that okay? All right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the question is, what do I do when something unexpected happens on a call? And they ask me something out of left field, or they do something totally weird. I've had clients tell me that in the middle of sales calls, the person's turned around and picked up the phone on Zoom, be like, hold on, and taken a call. And they're like, what's happening right now? So like the question is just like, are you okay? Can you get on board with stuff quickly? Are you open enough to be like, something strange happened on my call and I didn't know what to say. And I managed it. It's just literally that. It's the expectations we set for ourselves that it has to be a certain way that ruins everything in my experience. Because then when it goes off track, you're like, oh, I didn't prepare for that. That's a nightmare. They said something and I didn't know what to say. It's fine not knowing what to say. Yeah, Joe.
So would that be a good time to just kind of stop and then ask them the question, dive in a little deeper?
Yeah. Be like, I noticed you took a call right in the middle of the call. What's going on? Why would you do that? Not from like, how dare you? And I think this is where it's like the subtleties of being a great salesperson. Just remember, like, it's a value exchange. It's an equal value exchange, right? It's a business meeting. The dynamic doesn't have to be like, I'm over here, they're over here, it's a power play. No, none of that nonsense. It's like, I'm so curious, why would you take a call in the middle of a business meeting? What's going on? Why? And just stop and be like, I'm going to stop you right there. Like, this is not normally how I have my sales conversations, so maybe we could do another time. Would that work? But we like to get all like annoyed about it because it is pretty like, as a human, that is pretty rude. So like, stop someone, take a call, be like, hold on. No. So it's just going to be like, what are you prepared to allow? And what are you just like, no, I'm not having this. Because I tell you one thing, how someone turns up for a sales call and how you interact with them on a sales call is going to be how the relationship goes. Just from my experience. So if someone's like very aggressive and rude and dismissive on a sales call with you as the provider, chances are that's going to continue if you allow it. So you really have to root yourself in your standards and be like,
You've frozen again, Meg.
Froze, Meg.
let me try, what's happening?
You're back
Is
again.
that better?
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're back with us. No, you're fine.
I think my husband's sucking all the internet bandwidth. Yeah, so I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, you just get to set your acceptable business standards, acceptable business relationship, communication standards, especially I think for my coaches amongst us, because coaching is such a highly personal relationship. It's all a fairly personal relationship, to be quite honest. If you're involved in a big project together, it's all about relationships. So if you give an inch and give another inch and give another inch and give another inch, you're just setting a precedent. So just be really like, and I'm not saying one way is best or not, just be mindful of it. It's just something to watch for. And I just have like a list of red flags that I watch for in my sales conversations. And I'm really happy to be like, I don't think this is going to work out. Like in dating, like you have a coffee, you don't have to go for dinner and go dancing. You can be like, this has been nice. Can't see us going for dinner. You can say that, like man or woman. There's no shame in that game. Just be like, let's just have a coffee and a biscuit. Good? Cool. Does that help at all, Joe, to your question?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay. I like prem your comments. So yeah, anything else that's come up from that? Any other thoughts or any other, like Joe? Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
Well, I think that plays into another great question, which is what can we do up front in order to get ahead of the surprises that come up in sales conversations?
Yeah. What's your, so this is, I like to push Scott hard because he asked me to. So what would be your best guess?
I mean, my best guess is that that's part of your screening process, right? When you're discovery, where you're trying to form that initial relationship and get a good grasp in terms of what a potential partnership would look like. What are you trying to solve or produce? How does that play into not only your service, but who you are at your authentic core, so that you can start to hammer down on those details and get alignment and everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. It's like qualifying, marketing is as qualifying clients, conversations as qualifying. You're always like in your mind, you kind of have a wish list, if that makes sense, and a not wish list. So like, oh right, it seems like they're checking all my wish list criteria for a great person that I can help the best. Because it's not really about you and personally like this is where I think it gets really subtle. Remove yourself from the equation as the human being. Doesn't really matter if you like them. It doesn't really matter if you like them. It really doesn't. The criteria is always for your best client. It really is. You can find someone objectionable and still provide an incredible service that they're super happy about and they tell all their friends about. But on a personal level, you'd be like, I wouldn't go for dinner with them. They would be a pain in the bum. That's allowed. You have a business. You're not dating them. It's fine. So it's always for them. The criteria is always in the interests of your best client. Who gets the best result? Why do they get the best result? How do I help them get the best result? Do I see any red flags that they wouldn't get the result? That's all it is. If you like them, it's like the icing on the cake. It really is. It's the fun bit. That's what makes business super fun, is when you have people that you genuinely really, really like as a human. That's like the little icing on the cake. It's not necessary for the cake. It's not necessary to make money. It's just more fun. Scott, you're like, it is great. But yeah, your clients want the result. That's all they care about. If you guys have a blast doing it, fun times. But the qualifying criteria that you're going through mentally as you're speaking to people and as you're making offers is like, can I help the person? Do they want this? Will they use it? Are they going to be delighted? Are they going to pay me on time? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be easy? Are they going to be delighted and then tell 10 people? That's kind of my wish list. So your wish list may be different, depending on your person, depending on how you want to run your business. But the easier it is on both parties, the more easy it is for you to grow the business, because you're not running into yourself all the time. You're not having this, like, I don't know how to say it. You're not having draining experiences. But yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. Just being prepared for the unexpected, because humans are very unexpected. When they come on a call, they're going to do unexpected things. They're going to ask you things that you were like, what? Why are you asking that? It's fine. Thank you for sharing that, Scott. And Sorrel, you had a question that sorry, Prem, did you have a note on that?
No, just a scratchy face.
Oh. So I'm going to answer Sorrel's.
I mean, I was just reading Prem's last comment. I'm like, I hope he's not talking about me. I'll put it that way.
That'd be really weird. Trash talk is allowed in the chat. PS. Totally trash talk each other if you want to. But Sorrel had a question about webinars and the promotion time for webinars. So let's talk about that. We did have a session just earlier today, so we kind of touched on it, but something that came up from that was when you're creating more openings for people to come in, so more invitations, basically, you as a business owner, you're just always over there with your value going, hey, I've got something really cool. The more often and the more loudly, that's a word, the louder you are saying it, the more people will come. The more openings you're creating. So whenever there's a question about how often do I send something, how many posts, how many this, how many that, it's like irrelevant. Are you saying it enough so people can hear you? Are you getting seen on the whichever platform? Because that's the first problem, is we're up against the algorithm nonsense. So you can either spend a ton of time studying all the algorithms of all the social media platforms in the world, which sounds like a nightmare, and gaming it for gain, which again sounds like a lot of hard work. Or you can just create incredible value and just be persistent in creating incredible value and talking about it nonstop. Like, it's totally up to you. If you're like, no, I want to do one piece of value, big piece of value, and then just hire someone to just send it out to the world, do it. That's great. That's leverage. But your time as the creator of the value has to be really highly protected, in my experience, so you can do what you do. So however you want to leverage out the message, do it, whether it's through money or through time, because you're going to pay either way, with your own money, with your own time, or however else you want to spend your resources. So knowing that, it's like, great, how often do I need to publicize something? How frequently should I be talking about a free thing that I'm doing? And my answer is always just like, a lot, as much as you possibly can within reason that feels doable. And if it doesn't feel doable, pay money to someone who, for them, it's super easy and it takes them 5 minutes instead of taking you 5 hours. So this is my thing that I come up against all the time, because I'm not a visual, I can't create graphics. Like, it takes me a long time. So if I spend my time doing that, it's like a waste of, it's literally a waste of my time, because it's the thing I'm bad at. It takes me a really long time. It's not creating the value. I'm not in my value center when I'm doing it. So either I do it badly, or I do it not at all, or I pay someone to do it. I'm all right with all of those options. So it's less about like how often, how much, and more about, are you selling your value, selling it for free if it's an event or something that someone could register for free to dip their toe in the water? Are you positioning that in such an enticing way that people are like clearing their diary to come. You don't have to charge money for that. You can do it and people will pay with their time and still value it very, very highly. Because time is the most, like, it's the only resource we run out of. So if someone pays you with 5 hours of their time, they're very interested in working with you. So it doesn't really matter if there's a monetary value against that or if it's a free thing, really makes no odds. So does that, and I know Sorrel, you asked this, and I know we did get some way along. Has that helped with that?
It has. I think the conversation we had earlier was around, some people say, oh, you should have a 3-week lead into a webinar. And other people say, oh, 10 days is more than enough because you're going to lose people along the way and you'd have to keep them warm. And I think the conclusion I came to was that, well, I've got a 2-week gap between each of my webinars. So there's no point trying to publicize 2 webinars at the same time because it might confuse people. It might not, of course. It may be that it wouldn't confuse anybody, but I'm just making assumptions because it would probably confuse me. So it's easier for me to just start the publicity for the next one when the current one is finished, which is about 2 weeks. And I'm sorry, but my ectopic heartbeat keeps kicking off and I have to cough. So I'm going to mute myself.
Are you all right? Yeah,
it started this morning. I had a very animated conversation with an addiction specialist about a webinar. And I kept wanting to shut him up so I could get off the call and come and talk to you.
Oh, this was the call that you had straight after our session?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, just a bit of nervous system regulation.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah. Yeah. All good.
I'm fine.
Good job. Yeah, and it's such a good question about the webinars because people will tell you all kinds of different stuff as well. So there's no one right way, but when you solve the underlying thing of is it useful and how is it useful to them, it kind of solves the question.
Somebody actually cleared his diary to come to my webinar next week. So the fact that you said that is kind of cool because he said, "Oh, I'm going to move something out of the way so I can come." I thought, "Oh wow, that's amazing!" So I was really pleased about that. Oh, primate's clapping. So, and I guess the other thing I'm asking myself is, the funny thing is, I put a post out this morning at 9 a.m. and I had another one scheduled for like, I don't know, 11 or something. I thought, oh, is that too close together? So I moved it down a bit to later in the day. And yeah, of course, you can overthink these things a bit. But I think what I've learned from you, Meg, is that when you put things on social, most of the population is not going to see it at all. And the chances that anyone's going to see both posts in the same days is so remote, you just don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we can just tie ourselves up in knots because everyone's saying a different rule. Let's be honest, even the people who own the social media platforms, they don't know the rules. They have no flipping clue. They're like, oh, it looks like this is doing well. Let's bung some more airtime on this format. That's literally how they think. So it changes like the wind. So trying to learn it is kind of pointless. Instead, when you focus, you bring it back from, it's just a channel, it's just a media. If you think of it in marketing terms, it's not the what, it's just the method it gets out. We don't really care about that. It's not important. What's important is your owned asset, is the thing that you create, which you own. So something that I've been learning and doing more of is like, what is my owned property? YouTube, podcast, blogging, my IP, my email list, like what do I own? And I have the proprietary ownership of. Doesn't belong to social media. If they took my profile down tomorrow, I'd be like, whatever, I don't care. And who got put in LinkedIn jail recently? Oh, someone else that I know, Scott. It was Tim.
Tim Wagner. Yep.
Yeah, he got his LinkedIn they pulled the rug out from under his feet and shut him down because he'd contravened some kind of networking rule of connections, and they thought he was a bot, essentially, because he was doing so many connections. So he got put in LinkedIn jail. It happens all the time. I got put in Instagram jail for the same reason. They thought I was a bot. I was like, I'm not a bot. I'm just a highly motivated business owner, you fools. So they put me in jail. They closed me down. I had to start a whole new account. So you need to put yourself in a position that if any of the socials were taken away tomorrow, you'd be like, whatever, it's fine. Because they can't remove your skill set and your knowledge and your owned audiences. They can remove your social media audiences by shutting your account, and then you're like, oh no, why didn't I put them on my list? So don't put yourself in that kind of position where you're like, okay, now how do I reach them? They own the media. You have to understand, the social media people, they own it. So it's really in your best interest to own your own domain. And I mean that in like the broader sense, your website, and also your kind of intellectual properties, your YouTube. Again, it's on YouTube, but you need to have that as yours, your assets. Yeah. I kind of got distracted with that one. What were we talking about? Social media posting. Yeah.
So just, I know there's not really a rule because I used to work in communication, so I know every situation is unique. But more or less, when you are running a webinar, or for example, launching it, for me, would be launching a new collection. It's the same kind of thing, a launch basically. How long would you give it? Because obviously you need to have consistent communication, you need to have touch points. So what would be a recommended time limit, or case?
So I think it like there's a few different models that you can use, but there has to be 3 essential phases of any launch, like an open public launch time. So the way I think about launching is it's just the time when the shopping basket opens. It's just the time when you start selling. So it's just literally the day that you're like, this is now available to buy, and then it closes when it's not available to buy. That's all a launch is. It's just like a concentrated burst of selling. So that's like the main part. That's the launch itself, that time frame. Maybe it's 3 days, maybe it's a month. It's totally up to you. Maybe it's 1 day. You know, there has to be enough time for people to get to know that it's happening ahead of time. So again, it's kind of down to who your people are, where they are, how often they're reading stuff from you, how they engage with you. So it's really kind of dependent on so many of those things. Let's say, for example, they are all on Instagram. You launch on Instagram and you have an email list, just for the sake of an example. You need to be telling people that this is coming up so that they can get ready, so that they can mentally prepare, oh, Natasha's thing's coming up. I wanted to buy something, and this is when her new collection lands. I want to save my money because I know that they cost £3,000 or whatever. I want to be ready to buy when she's putting it out because it's limited edition or whatever it is that you do. So you've got to give people enough warning to kind of mentally prepare for it. So depending on, have I frozen? No, depending on who your clients are and how they buy, this will change depending on your business model. So in my experience, for my clients, a couple of weeks is fine. 2 weeks is all right. I could probably do 2 months and it would be better. But again, you have to work with what you can sustain. I don't really want to be launching for 3-month period, because like that's a lot of stuff to do. But I could give people advance warning 3 months ahead and be like, put it in your calendar. There's some dates coming up in March. It's going to be March the something to the something. So look out for, get on my list. I could do that. That would be very easy. But in terms of like a pre-phase warming up, I don't think it needs to be really long. But that's in my experience. So I'd be interested to hear from you guys if you've got a different view, or if your clients act in a different way, behave in a different way, because it's all going to be subject to your audience. Does that answer your question? Yeah. I think it's this concept of like keeping people warm, which can put us into a spin sometimes. It's like, that seems like a lot of hard work, keeping people warm. What if your job isn't to keep people warm, but it's just to keep providing value? I just feel that feels a lot easier to me, because I can do that. You guys can all do that. You can all keep doing the thing that you're doing and helping people. But the only times in my business that I've literally got to burn out and kind of fatigue with the business is that thought, I need to keep people warm. I was like, this is really tiring. A month of keeping a group of people warm in a Facebook group, I was like, oh, I don't have the energy. I don't think it's necessary either. People are busy. Being a warm, qualified client sometimes doesn't mean people are engaging. Sometimes people don't engage at all. So how would you even know? So it's a really good question. Any other thoughts? Musings? Anyone got any conversations upcoming that you're thinking about, wondering about, want some help with? No? So you need to have some more conversations. You're not having conversations.
I have actually got a hotel presentation later. I've got a hotel presentation this week or
Today?
next week. He's not
Okay.
he hasn't confirmed the date.
Nice.
So I'm waiting for that. But I think that's going to be a similar conversation as well, about that I bring the artwork to them and they sell it. So I'm just maybe that's what everyone is going to say. Maybe that is the market that I'm dealing with, So maybe it's a reality that it's nothing to do with me. It's just the way it is,
Yeah.
Sometimes there are things out of our control, right? That's how the market.
Yeah. Yeah. So just figure out how that could work for your business, if that's a model that you can make work. Yeah. That's really good. Awesome. Congratulations. Any other conversations upcoming that you want to talk about? Or if you're like, I'm not having any conversations, what's happening? Are you inviting people to have conversations, to chat? Yeah. absolutely, like connect, use this forum to connect with each other and help each other. So we have 5 more minutes. What would you like to leave the meeting with, if it's a thought or an action or a feeling today? What would you like to set as your intention for the week? You have to tell us all, and we'll all be on your backs, and we'll message you next week.
I'm
Wait,
Go
wait.
ahead, just jump in.
Go first, Joe. Go on.
Well, I was just gonna say nobody wants to commit, I think. I definitely need to have more conversations as far as to try to get clients, but I also know that I need to do some webinars. So that's why I need to have a plan out there and get it going. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Cyril.
I think in my case, Meg, to some things that we talked about, right? One of the underlying barriers is getting rid of the low value shit that I'm doing. So making sure that I get that properly delegated out to free up my time. That's a big driver for me.
Awesome.
What I've got to do is kind of go back to basics. I've got to look at what I'm offering, and really look at it from what you said earlier about the value that I'm providing, and framing it in such a way. And then also I've got to think about the dynamics of how I'm making it fun for the clients to interact. Going back to basics kind of thing.
Nice. Sorrel, did you have one as well?
The thing I was going to say was, we had that conversation this morning about, for me, I found it hard to say to somebody, oh, did you need some help with your marriage? And so I've been thinking about maybe asking a more kind of research oriented question, like, when you've had difficulties, how have you handled them with your other half? And just kind of like, just for me, to understand other people's perspectives and other people's ways of handling things. And then that might lead to a conversation that actually, do you know what, we've never figured that one out. As opposed to, yeah, we did this, and it worked. So yeah, I thought I'm going to give that a go and see what happens.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, exactly. It's just about, and I think we use this phrase of like being a detective. Or you're always being a detective. As a business owner, you're like in detective mode. Is this person someone who needs my help? Literally, that's like the question in your head. Excuse me. And we never know. We literally never know. We try and like guess ahead of time, but we can never know unless we have our detective hat on and we're open and literally curious about other human beings. Because they come from, like, these opportunities come from, honestly, have you not found this? Literally just like the weirdest places sometimes. And you're like, I never thought that was going to end up like that. Because you were open and you were like asking questions. And then they're like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah. So just have more conversations. So Joe, something that came into my mind when you were talking was, so what's the easiest thing for you to do to have more conversations with people? Like, what do you find easy? Like networking, one-to-ones? What's the easiest thing for you?
Well, I do a lot of networking and I do one-to-ones from that, but I think I'm more focused on using the network to network. I don't want to sell to that person. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get them to refer me. And then I just don't go too much farther from there, I think is where the problem is.
Okay. Yeah, because you want to have different networks for different purposes almost. And we talked about this, Scott, didn't we? It's like some networks are just going to be where you hang out with your friends and it's fun. And you're like, this is my me time as an entrepreneur to just spitball with people I like. And then there's like some networks that are like, oh, perfect. This is like 20 of my ideal clients in one room. You just have to find them. You just have to like be willing to experiment with different ones. And like, you don't need to be selling either.
Right.
You don't, I think there's a distinction in your mind between being Joe showing up and selling. What if you could just be Joe showing up
Right.
everywhere? Okay, I'm going to keep it to time. We're at 1. So have a wonderful week, everybody. The recording will be in the let me just stop recording.